We are ready to welcome you
to another episode of Bible Study from the Garage.
God, we did that really well. I'm really happy. It's fun to be able to be back in the garage. And today, we're talking about some garage
Super
kind
Bowl.
of things.
It's the Super Bowl episode. Hogs and dogs,
Well, it's not really the Super Bowl episode, but
baby.
you're saying there's a face-off?
Pulled pork and hot dogs?
God,
I don't know. Could it be? Who would be the dogs in the NFL?
You're just confusing people now more than normal. You're confusing people more than normal. Right now, we're supposed to be to the point and, really precise.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the Sermon on the Mount a little bit. Just a part of it.
We're going to talk about the Sermon on the Mount. Everybody knows the Sermon on the Mount. And did you know Jesus talked about pigs and dogs in the Sermon on the Mount?
Yeah, he doesn't like pigs and dogs.
He doesn't like? Who doesn't like pigs and dogs?
Jesus doesn't like pigs and dogs.
I mean, a dog is a man's best friend.
I think...
Oh, my goodness. Who doesn't like a dog and a pig? That is...
You want to see what they look like when they grow up?
Yes.
They look just like that.
Oh, they're so happy. Look at that. I do think that dog's kind of ready to eat the pig, though. He kind of looks mischievous. Sometimes dogs can be not good. And so this idea of the ancient world, dogs were not, these were not your little lap dog that was friendly.
I love dogs.
Well, you're a dog guy.
Yeah. You know what Jesus says?
He's a cat guy.
We already determined that, didn't we?
We did. We determined that Jesus is more of a cat guy.
He's a cat guy.
Yeah.
He's a guy who's Lion of Judah.
That's why he's talking bad about dogs.
Apparently.
But some people think pigs are really smart. You know that?
They say they make good pets.
I don't think those people have ever met a pig. When they say that, I don't think they've ever, seen a pig. Pigs stink.
Have you ever well, I was going to say the actual state, but I've driven through a couple of states where it seemed like for 300 miles all you could smell was pigs.
Southern Minnesota, where I went to college, was one of the biggest hog production. See, when you call it production and not farming, you know something different is going on there.
So you believe
hog producing.
Pigs are food.
Yeah,
right? Pigs are food,
man,
right?
They are.
Pigs are food, but dogs aren't food?
Dogs are not food. Would you eat a dog?
I've already eaten a dog.
I can't believe you admit that.
I think.
Really?
Absolutely.
How was it? Tastes like chicken?
No.
It's a red meat, huh? That's what one guy told me. What part of the world were you in? What part of the world were you in? Not Mexico. Please tell me it wasn't Asia.
I was in Asia. I won't say specifically.
Make specific. You won't say
I've
it was
eaten
Korea.
multiple times. Yeah. No, it wasn't Korea. Don't make me go down the list.
Philippines.
We're not trying to upset people here. I'm just saying I've eaten pretty much everything that's crawled in the earth has gone into my gullet.
We got to do a little Bible study here. And we're grateful to be able to think a little bit. We're going to take one verse out of the Sermon on the Mount.
Yep.
And it's a verse that probably most people have heard. I mean, there's some wisdom in this.
The Hogs and Dog episode, Matthew 7, verse 6.
Lay it on us.
All right, here it is. Do not give what is holy to dogs, and do not throw your pearls before swine, or they will trample them underfoot and turn and maul you.
Turn and maul you. What do you think the point of this is? Jesus is talking, and it's one of those situations where animals are in the Bible. Jesus talks about, here, dogs and pigs. It's not the only time Jesus refers to as people as dogs. In fact, in Jesus' day, the Gentiles were often referred to as dogs. It's not a compliment if you call somebody a dog, right?
But in historical context is important here.
Well,
is he really talking about dogs, or is he saying something symbolic here? Who are the dogs? Who are the hogs?
This is interesting. I think he is being very precise, and yet he is using language. He's not just talking about people, but he is talking about people. He's not really talking about animals here. He's saying, when you have something important, it starts by saying, don't take what's holy.
Right.
When Jesus talks about dogs in another place, he's talking to a Gentile woman, and he says, it's not good to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. But here he's saying it's not good to don't take what's holy and give it to dogs. Well, why not? Because what are the dogs going to do with it?
They're going to eat it.
They're not going to study it and respect it
underfoot.
and learn it and be really, people who are going to listen to you, and it's going to change their lives.
Well, Jesus, I mean, in Jewish culture, right, dogs as pets were rare, if non-existent.
Yeah.
And so it was a different relationship between man and dog, although dogs had already been domesticated by now. So
this idea, yeah, but really what he's saying is be careful with what's important to you, what's of value to you, and be careful who you entrust those valuable things to. Don't take what's holy. Don't take the pearls.
What are the pearls? Let's go into that a little bit.
Do you got any pearls of wisdom for us?
No,
wait a minute here. You got to have one. You're full of pearls of wisdom. And that's where sometimes pearls are symbolic, but it's just representing something valuable. So something that's holy or something that's of great worth.
Okay, here's a pearl. Ready? I had to think through some that would be non-offensive. There are wise people, but when somebody declares themselves wise, they probably aren't. How's that one? Is that good?
That is good. I do like that. So you're saying, no, we won't go down that road.
Don't go down it.
But Jesus is saying,
what I made went up.
He's saying, don't spend time with everybody. Don't engage everybody, because not everybody is going to be willing to listen to what you have. Not everybody's going to be willing to accept the message you have. Here Jesus is even saying there are people who you shouldn't associate with. Right. Don't spend any time with them. I thought everybody was valuable and to be loved and cared for, but here Jesus seems to be showing some judgment.
He's not saying, he's saying that you're not to judge, but not to act without judgment.
Well, that's a good quote.
Right.
God, I hope that makes it to the bottom of the screen.
There's a pearl.
I hope that makes it to the bottom. I think it is. But this idea that we should act with judgment, the way we live in the world, the way we live our faith, this idea of, you kind of do have to judge people if they're a dog or a pig.
Yeah, so what is Jesus saying, though? Is he saying just walk away, don't waste time, move on to the next thing? Because he did that.
He did.
He did that.
Yeah, and so I think he's saying, don't invest time. Don't take what's valuable and spend time with people who are just wanting to argue. Have you ever been in a conversation with anybody, Scott, who just wanted to argue?
Oh, I'm that guy.
I'm that
guy.
No, yeah, you're very reasonable.
You want to be a contrarian? I can do it just for the fun of it.
I think I've seen it. Well, I even, have had some time where I've been reflecting, and I've learned I like to ask questions.
Sure.
I love to ask questions. I love to understand things. And sometimes people take it as interrogation. And they get defensive, and they get frustrated.
Sure.
And even then I had one person say, well, you're just asking all these questions because you want to find something to use against me.
Wow.
It's like, no, I'm just
trying to get to know you.
I'm trying to get to know you, and I'm curious. But
for
for them, it made them feel vulnerable. Yeah. It made them kind of go on the defensive, and then they started to attack. And that's kind of what Jesus is saying here is not everybody is going to be an open recipient. And so when people aren't, think about the context. Think about the situation. Is this really going to be a productive conversation? And if you see somebody who is just combative, you can maybe engage with them. But like my sister said, maybe you should just be waving neighbors with that person. Maybe
you know what I noticed? On the West Coast, we have a lot of fences. Everybody puts up fences on the West Coast.
Make good neighbors.
East Coast, they don't do a lot of that. So
that's why I grew up. If you had a fence, you should be able to see through it. And so, chain link doesn't good. Picket fence, short.
I don't want anybody seeing
creates a boundary.
I build a 12-foot wall,
concrete, you want
privacy. Barbed wire. I want privacy. I want privacy.
Some jagged glass on the top.
Well, so this is the thing, right? When you're
something really inviting is what you're doing.
So I've been to many places in the world, but that's
that just makes people want to get in, and they want to say
there must be
something good behind that wall.
I just want my privacy. Yeah. There are many parts of the world where they put jagged glass on top of their brick walls.
They do.
It's all over the place. And but there's what we see a lot of now is what's a reasonably polite word for people that are getting in everybody else's business?
Busybody.
Busybodies want to know what's going on in areas that they really should be minding their own business.
Well, you don't have to. Everybody puts it online, like us. I mean, you just put it on Facebook and tell everybody what you ate for dinner and what you did, and you're inviting people into an engagement. There's even a word for it now. If you're trolling somebody, you're trolling them means you're looking for a fight. You purposefully put something out there that's inflammatory, or somebody puts something out there that means something to them, and you don't really care, but you try to jerk their chain.
So this happened to me once. So I was in Croatia with my wife, and we were...
Beautiful country, Croatia.
Loved it.
Beautiful country.
And we were on like a small group tour. There was only like maybe, 15 of us. Maybe less, 12. And there's one person that seemed to be sort of separate from the group. So I made an effort to sit down at lunch and ask a few questions. Who were they?
Sounds friendly. I mean, that sounds nice.
They got up and walked away, angry, because they felt like I was interrogating them. Now, I can't speak for it because it wasn't inside their head, but clearly they got offended by me just asking questions like, where are you from, and what do you do for a living, and all that, because I think they preemptively thought judgment was coming. And I had no intention of judgment. What I had was an intention to make them feel more comfortable with the rest of the small group. And it backfired.
See, I think that's how did you feel about it afterwards? Did you feel hurt or frustrated?
No, I didn't feel hurt or frustrated. Okay. What I felt was, why would this person do that? And so something about them, it triggered some sort of response. And so I just said, wow, that was amazing. And then in the end, she was pretty rude. And I just thought, wow. So I told somebody about it, and they disinvited her from the group.
Oh, wow.
And so there were consequences to it that I didn't even have any intention of executing.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, well, if she doesn't want to, then she can stay an outsider. It didn't bother me. Certainly bothered them.
See, that's interesting, because I think that's part of what Jesus is saying here is to say, well, who could have seen that coming, and Jesus is saying, when you're dealing with dogs and pigs, you kind of have some expectations of how things are going, and that things probably aren't going to turn out well. Who could have seen that coming? Who could have
blindsided?
And Jesus is saying here, it's okay to be a little defensive. I had a friend who I was talking with, a mentor, who was saying, he accused me of idiot compassion. He's not a Christian, and so it was interesting. He was trying to figure out, and he said, often Christians, you're just not very discerning. You're spending a lot of time trying to convert somebody or loving somebody when what that person really needs is a firm boundary. That person needs a firm boundary and needs you to say, no, I'm not going to do that again. And his comment was, okay, this pattern has been happening time after time after time. What makes you think this time it's going to be okay?
All right, so
And when you have a valuable thing, when you have something that's precious, and then you give it to somebody who, okay, I think they're going to mistreat it. You should know that. You should have some insight and understanding that not everybody's going to treat what you have that's precious and valuable in a way, and know that going in. Don't be stupid is basically what he was saying.
Well, I think that's some of what I think Jesus is saying in this passage.
Yeah.
Basically, he's saying, don't be guilty of condemning anybody, but be discriminating about who you're going to provide witness to.
Martin Luther said it this way, which I find more entertaining. Luther said, no, he did say that probably a time or two, but I think he said, when fighting with conquer or conquered, you won't come out unstained.
Oh, that's a fact.
When fighting with pigs, you're going to get dirty. This simple idea that
dogs are going to get
there probably is, like you said, a natural consequence to things. And natural consequences, then do we blame the other person? Maybe you know the story of the frog and the scorpion.
Sure, you can't blame me for who I am.
Yeah, that's who I am. Yeah, I'm just being who I am. I'm a dog or I'm a hog.
But see, what's interesting about that is the scorpion tried to
Do you
trick
need to
the
tell
frog.
up the story?
Well, the short version of the story is the frog and the scorpion are at the edge of the river. And the scorpion, of course, the best way to kill scorpions, having lived in Arizona, is to drown them. Right.
Fantastic.
So scorpions generally are resistant to chemicals and things
not
like
good
that.
swimmers.
They're not good swimmers. They don't like water because you drown them is the best way to kill them.
Yeah.
So the scorpion even knowing who he is, says to the frog, will you take me across
I
the
gotta
river?
get across.
And
yeah.
the frog says, no, you'll sting me. And he goes, why would I do that? It's not in either of our interests, because if I sting you, not only will you die, but I'll die as well. So
Boom.
the frog says, you know what? That makes sense. Scorpion jumps on the frog's back, goes halfway across the river. Scorpion stings the frog, and the frog says, why did you do that? And the scorpion says, well, I can't help it who I am. And they both die. And
That's not a funny story, but I'm laughing.
Oh, no,
because
it's funny.
It's meant to be
funny.
silly and tell you a point.
But
when you expect somebody to not act according to their nature, know who you're dealing with.
a politician. They say one thing and they do another. You don't
So you're
realize
saying
how corrupt I am,
some
but I'm
people-
going to sting you when it's
Some
different.
people might deceive you, but here
Oh,
Jesus
yeah.
is saying, this is clearly who these people are.
It's
This
a-
is clearly who they people, and when people reveal themselves
You
to
should believe them.
You should believe, and even I had one person say, you should believe them the first time.
Well, this is the thing, right? The frog actually has some knowledge, but he doesn't have wisdom, and he learns the hard way.
Oh, it's hard.
And so people do the same thing.
Yeah.
They say, well, I don't believe you're going to be fair this time.
Well, even as
Or whatever.
Christians, we often,
see.
because we're taught, forgive, forgive, forgive.
Healthy boundaries are more
Always
important.
be there, always be loving. And what we're taught is love is probably really codependence. What we're taught is love is really, I need to take what's mine, and of course you need to have part of it. Because that's what it means if I love you. Of course I need to treat you in a way, where you get what you need, and my needs, they're not as important.
So we've talked on the show a lot about concrete thinking, right? Yes, no, black, white, and why it's terribly ineffectual as you grow up. But a lot of people never get out of this absolute thinking. And you get into a situation where they can't navigate the complicated life choices that need to be made as you grow up. Where there are
I know I
consequences
can't.
no
God,
matter
I
what you
struggle
do,
with this
right?
one, yeah.
And so here we
Wait a
have
minute,
the sort of-
consequences no matter what
no matter
you
what.
do?
You got to think of the world as ranges rather than absolutes. And
I want a win-win, Scott. I want a win-win. I don't want to have consequences.
there's always consequences.
Man, why does it have to be that way? Why can't we all just end and hold hands and walk down the street and be happy? Why do you have to be so adversarial and have opponents here, Scott? Can't we all just get along and love each other and be happy?
We can't. We can't. And I think Jesus is saying that, right? He's saying, discriminate in our witness, right? Don't.
Wait a minute. You think Jesus was a discriminator?
I'm going to say yes.
Discrimination. That's,
He says
you
walk
should
away.
never.
Is that
That's
not-
anti-American.
Oh, no.
It's
So
anti-American, Scott.
there's some.
No
We
discrimination.
discriminate every day.
Well, I guess
if
not.
I handed you a hot dog
Yeah.
or a pulled pork sandwich,
It's a tough choice.
You have
Can I
to
put
just-
them together?
you can only have one.
This is
No,
America.
you
We
can only have
put 'em-
one.
No, I put them together.
you can only have one. You're going to have to discriminate between the two. You're going to make a choice.
Why?
So sometimes when we say it's a good moral choice, we say it's just a choice. But when it's for bad purposes, we say it's discrimination. And in the United States, of course, anytime the word discrimination gets used, it always goes to a singular, absolute meaning. But it actually is something we do every day.
That's what
we
I thought.
discern everything we do. And
Yeah.
if you bump into somebody that doesn't want to talk to you about Jesus, what are you going to do? Fight him?
Keep talking until they tell you to run out of there or kick you out. Yeah. No, that's what that's what I usually do. 'Cause
Well, it's your
I
job,
don't
right?
take social cues very well, is what I've been told. Yeah. They're like, couldn't you tell that person really didn't want to talk? And I'm like, well, I wanted to talk. I was having fun.
You didn't even care if they listened.
I didn't really. I didn't really. You
All
know.
right, so some discernment is required when you change words. I mean, we have millions of words in the English language, so we can pick a different word to describe what's happening here. But he is saying to make a decision about why you're talking to somebody, what you're going to talk about, and if they're not going to listen, if they're going to throw your pearls or trample them underfoot, just to walk away, to not be a part of it. And that actually may not be the least confrontational way to deal with the situation. But are you willing to tolerate that they are not going to listen? Or are you going to judge them and throw them into whatever kind of social prison you want to put them in?
Well, it's a
That
really,
happens a lot today.
That's a real interesting thing. I mean, in recovery language, if anybody knows 12-step recovery, there's a idea called detaching. And of course, Jesus isn't saying detach with hate. Sometimes when we detach from each other, we're having a conflict and we're like, we got to slam the door. We got to tell the person off. We got to raise our voice and scream and yell.
Sure.
He's not saying any of that.
Nope.
In fact, he's saying, don't get in there. I mean, I had one woman tell me, don't get in the cage with the 500-pound gorilla, even if your song is playing.
Yeah.
Don't take, and this is what I had another friend accuse me of taking the bait every time.
You are a fisherman.
I take the bait every time. And this is where maybe not every interaction is, straightforward and is among people who really want to talk. There might be some manipulation in human interaction.
Oh, for sure.
There might be. And even people may bait you into some things. But once you find out, they're just trying to bait me into it.
Scorpion manipulates the frog.
Absolutely.
That's the whole point of it. And the frog doesn't rely on his knowledge, and he learned the hard way.
Man,
People
I'm a slow learner, Scott. I'm a slow learner. And I think one of the problems is I have a friend who says, well, that's called hope. When you do the same thing over and over again, expecting it to be different.
Ready? Hold on.
That's hope.
No, that's insanity.
No, that's hope.
And hope is not a strategy.
Well,
It's not a strategy.
It's not.
It's okay to have hope, but if you don't have
now you're
actions,
saying Jesus thinks we should be strategic in who we talk to and
he
who
is.
we don't?
That's exactly what he says.
Oh, man.
Right? He says discriminate in our witness. He's saying be strategic about who you talk to. If somebody's not willing to listen and they're going to throw your pearls of wisdom right into the gutter and the dog will trample over it or vice versa, whatever's going to happen, he's saying walk away.
Yeah, that my time is valuable and I'm not going to waste my time interacting or engaging with people. And we're grateful for your time spent with us here at Bible Study from the Garage. The one thing we didn't do today,
We didn't pray.
we didn't pray, and that's worth some time at the end.
Let's do it.
Let's say a quick prayer. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for the gift of today, for this time together, for this chance to think about your word and maybe even a section of it that we've heard, pearls before swine, but help us to understand its true meaning in our life and how we can apply that in our relationships and in our conversation. Help us to find ways to share your gospel, but also to know when it's not there. Stop and move on to a new place and to new opportunities. Be with us in Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks again.
Blessings, everybody.
God bless.